You talk about it privately, we talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered Podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered Podcast. I'm your host, James Twiggins, along with my co-host, Keith Robinson, aka Crazy Uncle Keith. Keith, tell us all about Rich Swier.
Yes, today we are going to have Rich on the podcast. We're going to dig in with him on lead gen because he's a wizard at it. We might talk end of days with AI, a heartfelt story about how and why he started one of his companies, and just an overall genius, in my opinion, when it comes to residential real estate, the math of it, the science of it. Looking forward to this conversation.
Rich, welcome to the show. We are excited to have you here. I know that when I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, you have quite an extensive background in real estate. You're currently the founder and president of Roof. But I thought we'd start out with Keith shared this really interesting story about how you got into the residential real estate space because of your daughters. So share us a little background on that, because I thought that was a really interesting approach to this business.
Yeah, so I mean, my background is mostly in, building software businesses. And so I have a passion in the innovation space. And my daughter got into real estate very early, at the young age of like 19. And, just knowing my daughter and, her kind of work ethic, which is yet to develop, I guess is a nice way to say it. I said,
you better hope she's not listening to this.
Man.
Yeah, right. Well, she probably is. So
Yeah.
This is where she spends her time, on the internet, watching, amazing content like this right here.
So your daughter was early in the business. We'll edit that other part
exactly,
out.
Yeah.
And you decided.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? The likelihood of succeeding, it's a very tough space, and it takes a lot of energy and work, as we all know, which is, something that, again, she probably needs a little help in. So I said, what we could do is, I thought I was going to build something that could help her really kind of drive leads and get her business going, because as a new real estate agent, it's very tough. And she has a few friends and she has a good sphere of influence, but ultimately she's young and needs a little support. So we started working on this idea of just building out what I call a lead conversion funnel, but most people don't even know or care what that is, but ultimately helps drive leads to her so that she can close business with minimal effort, I guess is the best way to say it. I won't use the word lazy or distracted, but
Well, yeah. But I mean, I think we were going to dig into this anyway.
Yeah.
But first of all, I love that you're there to help your daughter. I've got a couple that are in my life.
Yeah.
So, and we'll make sure we put your email address in the show notes so that if anyone wants to get adopted.
This is when she got her real estate license right here.
Yeah, by the way, that's the age of the photos most realtors use on their business cards still today.
That's
so
a
that isn't
profile
anything
of our
different.
website. Yeah.
So you'll be flooded with adoption paperwork as soon as this pod drops.
Yeah.
But I also think, and you and I have actually talked about this offline a little bit before, but there's this sort of disjointed nature of late funnel leads, and what the industry is used to is sphere of influence and open house and things where people are very late cycle. And with the internet and online leads, it's sort of they're at the tippy top of the funnel. They're in the I'm starting to maybe thinking about it phase. Talk a little bit about that disjointed nature of the industry and the online lead space and how those two fit together.
Yeah, so I mean, the best way to put it is there's a giant chasm between what we call a lead in the world of the internet and what I think real estate agents or most sales reps would call a lead, right? So, there's a difference between marketing and sales. And I grew up basically in the world of lead conversion and what became kind of known as, the conversion funnel, which is kind of the standard way of marketing any product, real estate being included on the web. I mean, one could say the internet is just one big giant funnel at the end of the day, and learning that system is very difficult, and having the patience and understanding how to move leads through that funnel is extremely difficult. That's why there's people that make millions just teaching classes on this stuff. But ultimately, real estate's an interesting spot because it does follow kind of the natural progress of what a lead conversion funnel is meant to be, but it's just a very long time, instead of 9 days or 9 hours or 9 minutes. In many cases, like you sell widgets on Instagram in 9 minutes, right? They see an ad, they're scrolling, and they go, boom, I'm going to buy that pair of shoes. But with the, with the lead cycle being such elongated with real estate, it does pose problems. And I think
what is that time frame now? Just curious. What is the time frame?
We're seeing 9 to 12 months. There was a point in time, it was closer to 6 months, 3 to 6 months. You
Sure.
know, but when you're talking about the whole life cycle of a lead, it's kind of curvature of from where somebody starts clicking on ads or clicking on content, and then you're tracking cookies and you're matching those cookies with a person's identity at some point, getting them through filling out a form, and then eventually, then you're about 3 to 6 months from them even thinking about buying or hiring an agent. And then there's another 3 to 6 months tack onto that, the actual, okay, I'm working with an agent, I'm actually buying or selling my property. And of course, there's life things that are, when you're selling a property, there's things like timing of that is like, well, I can't sell until my kids get out of school, or, there's all these other factors that are out of the control. And then now with a tight market, you typically have this buy sell kind of overlap, right? Where I need to find a property to buy that's reasonably priced before I sell, and interest rates and things like that kind of muck it up too. So,
sure.
There's just the dynamics is a long time. So what we tell, or what I say to people is, listen, the thing you need to focus on, if you're an agent looking to get into the online lead space, go in with the thinking is, I just have to build a funnel. I got to build a massive funnel with so much stuff at the top, and I just have to wait it out. And it will start trickling down using just kind of best practices. But they don't go in that mindset. They go in almost thinking, I'm buying bottom of the funnel leads, and then they get frustrated after 60 days, and then they abandon it.
Yeah, isn't it even on some of these ones like with Realtor.com's Ready Connect Concierge or Zillow, Flex, they're incubating it on their side and then doing a live connect. But even those conversion rates are as high as like 5-6% at that, even in that portion of the funnel. Am I inaccurate with that? I think I'm fairly accurate with that number somewhere in there.
And you don't know how long they've been nurturing them and how long they've been going on. I've talked to people, I've got good connections with the founder of ObCity, Michael, and we've talked to people from Ideal Agent and all these different services that are doing basically what you just described, this middle of the funnel activity. It's you don't understand what's going on and how much effort. So when it's finally handed over to the agent, they think it happened overnight, but in reality, it's been months of nurturing.
So I'm going to lead that to another question. So there's a lot of controversy about paying for these leads at a whatever they want to call it, success fee. Let's call it a referral fee, what it is. Where it's like, oh my gosh, it's 30 to 40%. And I get that. Like, I understand what that number is, but part of me has always sat back, and I've probably, spent a lot more time thinking about this and just working on the side of the business. I'm going, well, how long did somebody spend to incubate that into, to your point, into an actual tangible person to speak with that, there's time to find them, time to get them, time to incubate them, work them, call them, nurture them, and then turn it into a live connect. And I think kind of what your point is that agents are obviously trying to just get to the next deal. And so there's not value in all of that went into it, in perceived value at least.
I think there's a general, it's a black box to most agents. And so it's hard for them to put value on something. So when you're saying, oh, I want 25% or 33% of your commission, the immediate reaction is, oh, wait, what are you doing? What exactly? Because if you don't know what they're doing, then it's obviously hard to put value on that. But what we see, it's on average, and this is how it's been. This is the playbook that I've been talking about even before I got into the middle of the funnel side of the business. I was doing lead gen with these other my other ventures, and it's 20 touches, it's calls, it's text, it's emails, and it's solid 30-day. Heavy intensity on that first lead. And then, of course, you have to buy the leads, right? You pay to somehow get the lead into the funnel to begin with. So it's not just a capital investment that you're putting into it, but there's an amount of time and energy that you're putting into just nurturing these businesses or these leads to get to a point where they're. So, I mean, that is a non-zero amount of energy and money that is quantifiable. And the question is, what is it for an agent? Is it worth paying that up front and being, and actually having to do that work, or is it just better to pay on the success? And it's kind of this like balance. I don't think anybody honestly has figured it out to what it will. I don't think anybody is doing it the way it will be done, is my point. Like, we're still so early. There's people that are going full success fee, but they're not going to survive the downturn, and they're already struggling. And I would argue that they were struggling to begin with, even in the good times.
You're talking about the portals themselves that are doing something like
portals,
this.
And then also just these other pure plays like ObCities and Ideal Agents and Home Lights, and even myself, with Roof, we're still figuring it out because nobody's really been through the cycles. So models might work well in certain, like iBuyers, for example, which is a completely more extreme. Cycles will determine survival rate. So, and this is one of the reason why brokerages and agent models have survived through both cycles is because it has that flexibility, and there's innovators that come along that can adjust, but ultimately survive because you can be big and small and still do transactions. But the ones that do the middle of funnel stuff, you have to be pretty sizable to make it a fluid business, and that's a challenge. And I think we're going to see a lot of that innovation start to happen at a faster pace over the next 2 years because of that cycle's.
So can I say what I heard you say, and then you tell me what I got right and wrong? So like the CapEx of a call center, right? And you're not going to start a 2-person call center.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. You got to start a 22-person call center, right? And the spend on the leads and all of the costs that are associated with tilting up this mid-funnel solution that you're going to charge a referral fee for. While that might work when sales cycle is compressed in an ultra white hot market where everything is cycling through with more speed, now we're in a different market. Things are taking longer. Buyers getting cold feet. Buyers and sellers both just stopping for a period of time. So no one's making a decision because of pace of interest rate change. But they still have those fixed costs. And those fixed costs.
You have agent churn, which is a massive problem. So you have agents. We're referring deals to agents, and they're like, "Oh no, you know what? I couldn't make my rent check, so I'm not an agent anymore." It's like, well, wait a minute. What about those 5 leads you're working?
Right.
And that's why you've seen
5,000 we've sent you, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And is that a good reason why you're seeing teams becoming like the dominant thing that these, a lot of these, I mean, for like, you look at Zillow Flex, they only work with teams, the end. Like it's literally big powerhouse teams that, I guess to your point, now that I thought about it that way, it's like there's longevity there. There'll be agent turnover, but the team isn't going to go away.
The team might go from 8 agents to 4, but it's not going to go from an agent to 0, right?
Right.
Well, and the team, and maybe we're think tanking this out loud, but I mean, maybe a team has a lot of different. I mean, just trying to define what a real estate team is, we could spend 30 minutes talking about that, but it allows the scalability up and down, some of that flexibility, so that the lead continues to get worked and is enduring in that approach.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that when you think of a team, the best way I could describe it is that they're serious. They're running it like a business.
Yeah.
And so there's some longevity.
Departmentalized.
There's assurance there that they'll survive the lead cycle.
And there's a bunch of non-team agents that's the truth, right? They've been doing it for 20 years. They've ridden up and down cycle. They, that's a good point. It's a really good point.
Here's one. So we hear all the time that agents go, online leads suck. That's a very technical term, but that's what you hear.
No, I learned that one in business school.
Yeah, we both got that. And I guess my question is, if we're selling on average about 5.3 million units, granted it'll be down this year, but we'll go with the average over the past 10 years, which is about that number, and lead gen continues to go up, meaning there's more and more leads, is it coming from the fact the same person inquired on 4 websites and now 4 websites are incubating the same lead and they're passing it off to people? And I mean, I'm not know where I'm going with it, other than I think there's some validity to the fact that people go, online lead gen sucks because I'm just dealing with people, I'm chasing my tail, and I don't know where it came from. Is there truth to that? I mean, what's your take on?
Yeah, I'll ask even a little more directly. There's something like 20 million online leads, but only 5 million transactions.
Sure, there's a number.
What the hell's going on there? What's between the 20 million and the 5?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think if you were to kind of say, if from a real estate sale, if I was a sales rep or of any product, it doesn't. Real estate is not immune to is not unique in this scenario, and I was to give my guys marketing leads to sell, they would say they suck. Right.
That's been the sales since Glenn Ross. Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bottom line, is that when you give somebody top of the funnel leads or marketing leads that have yet to be qualified, they absolutely do suck because you have to work a lot. The ratios are not there. What I learned, over the last 10 years is it is math. And what I tell, agents that I work with, I was like, listen, it's math, and it's some percentage of these leads are going to convert down to the middle funnel, and some percentage of that's going to convert down to the bottom funnel, and some percentage of that. And I know that because one of my backgrounds and what I use on a day-to-day basis is a concept called predictive analytics, which is just basically saying past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So we run models. So we go back and we look at leads that we predicted to sell, and lo and behold, some percentage of them actually did sell. It was just a matter of time and energy. So I think when you talk about the number of leads, certainly there is a dynamic there where people are looking at 2 or 3 different sites and they fill out their information, and there's some duplicity there or duplication there. You know, just like cars, you know, most people buying cars go to 4 or 5 dealers. It's probably not the same from an agent perspective, but certainly now that most of the leads are going through these portals, certainly they're using multiple portals, right?
It's probably not 4 to 5, but it's probably more than one.
And
right?
then and I think there's probably, you know, there's an element there, of course, where you have you know, a lot of people who are quote unquote buyers, you know, those wishful buyers that are kind of going to sites and going, hey, I would love to live in, you know, California, and then they have this realization that it's expensive, but they still shop, you know, those tire kickers.
Or the Californians who are loving to see what $1 million would buy somewhere else, right? Yeah.
All it takes is a pandemic and everybody wants to move and search online real estate.
Exactly, you know? And everybody's early retirement, there's other dynamics. But yes, I mean, I think one of the things that I think when you look at leads, going from leads suck to these leads are good, is that process, that non-zero amount of work and effort has yet to be really truly productized.
Defined, right?
And productized. I mean, people who are in the business know, like, okay,
this is work. Yeah.
When I'm doing online leads, I got to work it, and there's a small percentage of those leads that are actually end up being deals, and hopefully my ROI is there. But the rise of Google, the rise of Facebook, all these components have brought that to the front. And I think what's happening now is you're starting to see the beginning of what used to be my neighbor used to call me, or my friend used to call me as a real estate agent. They're going to Zillow, they're going to Facebook, they're going to Google first. And because online leads are the first mover, the first in the door, they are winning a lot more deals. And so I think it's going to force agents to embrace it.
Let me ask a quick question first, James. Is there a minute, like, I'm going to go ultra tactical for just a second. Let's pretend I'm an agent listening. Is there a minimum number of online leads, big bucket, you know, generic quote online leads? But like, if I had 10, that's not enough, right? That's not is there in your with your experience, like, either don't spend the money or don't stop spending the money until you get to blank number of leads? Is there some critical mass?
Yeah. So statistically, what we try to tell people is you want at least to have 300 leads before you start seeing statistics come into play. And then you can make a decision. Then you can actually make a fundamental decision, like, oh, hey, I only got 1 listing out of that. How much did I pay for those 300 leads? Do the math and, like, all right, do I want to really continue or not?
And I'm assuming they need to have a CRM to follow up with that, and, like, they need to have processes in place as well to make sure there's a follow-up mechanism to convert, correct? Or 100%. No?
Yeah, 300 leads, 30 touches, and it's probably, you know, now I used to say 6 to 9 months before you start seeing ROIC, but I mean, now it's 12 months. So so if you're going to be part of a program, what I would cross-reference that is say, all right, well, this program give me 300 leads. Will give it to me in the budget that I'm willing to spend, you know, and then will it, does it have a system, or do I have to go build a system that allows me to do 30 touches? And when I say 30 touches, like, it should have some phone and other components in there.
That's over the course of a year, to be clear?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to compress the touches. So
early, right? Let's just say fast early. Yeah.
Simple math would be 30 leads a month. And those 30 leads need to be touched at least 15 times that first 30 days. And then you nurture them over, and then you kind of waterfall the nurturing. That's kind of the program that I've
And conversion, typically, what would be a normal conversion rate on that? Just like, you're looking, is it 1%, 5%? Like, what is a reasonable number in there that makes sense for someone?
It's tough because markets. I would say if you're just kind of going a mid-tier market, not like multi-million-dollar houses kind of thing, mid-tier market. Yeah, you're probably out of those 300. Yeah, you're probably going to look at getting, I would say, 3 to 10 listings wouldn't be crazy, and that really does depend a lot on other factors, like.
So that's 1 to 3% roughly.
Yeah, I would say I've seen agents perform at a 2 to 3% in a market where there's a lot of
high turnover, decent turnover,
and they're really good agents, and they really have a solid, you know, call to action and a plan.
You know, the part I think that you said that most people fail at. And it's interesting because it's so counterintuitive to how most residential real estate professionals think, is you said in the first 30 days, you've got to touch them 15 times.
Yeah.
Right. So that's every other day, whether it's a call, a text, an email, or something,
right.
every other day for 30 days.
Until they tell you they're ready to go, or until they tell you to go tell Sam.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that like that mindset is just so if you're an agent and you're listening to this and you don't feel comfortable with that, don't spend money on leads, period.
Or have somebody else do it for you.
Or have
right?
someone else do it for you, right?
Which is kind of what, back to your point earlier, James, which is kind of what these middle funnel players do.
They're doing the work.
And that's why they want the 25 or 33%, because they're like, man, we're really working our butts off here.
But this is a simple math equation, to your point. This is just what is the cost?
Yep.
Do I have the system to follow up? And what is my conversion? And if you make more money than you're spending, I'm making what other comment is, then you're ahead. And people always have to remember that as long as you can follow up with these people correctly, these become clients, you can get referral business. So there's a factor in there that I think sometimes people forget. When you get business, there's an inherent cost and a potential profit, but you also have to factor in things down the line. I
guess my point that I just want to pin this into the ground, because I think it's the biggest disconnect from the industry to online leads, is working it correctly. James, you are 100% right. I don't think there's too many agents who would say, if you ask them what's the correct way to work an online lead, very few would say 15 touches in 30 days.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's the truth, right?
Yes.
And so that starting there, you solve that. And then you might say, well, online leads might not suck. I just don't want to work that hard. Fair. No problem. Go talk to the 30% guys or the 40% guys or the 50% guys. Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's the ruthless business logic that they need to do for themselves.
It's a completely different animal, for sure.
Right.
So I want to take us down the road of AI, machine learning, some of these things. I know you have you're dabbling, I shouldn't say, you're actually quite involved in a lot of this stuff. Elon Musk says AI is going to kill everybody. So, where does that fit in? Kind of joking here, but where does that fit into the future of these conversion rates? What do you see as this being able to help?
How can I use AI to get rich before it kills me?
Before it kills me. Yeah. Like, so tell us, go down that a little bit with just what are you seeing? What's new? What's interesting? Like, where does this take us from from the lead side and conversion and helping agents?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, what you guys are doing here with the podcast, I mean, kind of defines message as the medium, right? The idea that you guys are doing content is key, right? Content is something that I think agents are a little bit uncomfortable with. I mean, obviously the MLS is a giant mountain of content, but expanding on that content is kind of key. And AI is a great way to lever, in this first phase of AI, I would say, it is a machine that can create content and good content. And I think I spoke about this at the conference, but the idea that agents should be leveraging right now, specifically like ChatGPT, which is kind of everyone's kind of the leader of this.
It's the brand. That's the Kleenex of
It's amazing.
Of AI.
Yeah, it's amazing what it can do. We have agents that use it to generate emails out to nurture their leads. Within our system at Roof, we generated over 100 templates using ChatGPT for specifically following up with our lead for conversion funnel system. So when you're talking about, like, I need to create great content, whether it be a blog, whether it be, quite honestly, anything, or you need to embrace this in order to kind of advance and accelerate, I think, the way you communicate with your audience. That's first and foremost. And then it's going to be part of every piece of software that anybody's going to touch within the next year. So whether they like it or not, it's going to be in their CRM. It's going to be in what we're doing here. It's going to be, there's going to be AI that automatically edit this podcast to optimize, readers, and it's going to be nuts. It's going to be not too similar to what we experienced with the growth of e-commerce, was kind of the second phase of the internet. Then social media became kind of the dominant force. This next phase of the internet and online connectivity is going to be driven by AI.
Is there
it's going to happen so fast?
Does it? And I don't even know what questions to ask. I know Keith has opinions here, but does it just?
You go first.
I was just going to say, does it take the personalization eventually out of it? Like, if I know I'm talking to a damn chat box, I'm like, okay, I'm done.
I think it's gonna make it feel more human than you realize, and I unfortunately believe that there's kind of meet in the middle effect that's happening, because as much as we believe that we are in complete control of how we communicate, we are living within the confines of the tools that we have, and we are starting to communicate differently, right? Like texting, and now nobody even talks, right? Because it's just easier to text or easy to snap or whatever, or post on Instagram. So we are kind of we're in essence understanding how the efficiency of talking like a machine is helping our lives, and then we're kind of embracing it. So it's weird to say that the AI is a weird thing because we're kind of moving faster that way than it's moving this way. But all in all, I think it's going to be an enhancement and make things way more efficient than we realize. And then eventually the threat of it, I think, what you mentioned with people like Elon and others that are kind of scared of it, is that it can have a massive impact on areas that we're not necessarily looking at. Like our obvious places, like we're looking at businesses and how's it going to affect jobs. But that's probably the last thing it's going to really ultimately make major impact negatively. I think it'll be positive for the most part over the next decade or two. Where it's going to kill us is in the early phases of
is that where you've landed, by the way? You're landing on
mean
it will
physically
kill us?
or kill the economy?
Yeah. I'll just leave that open up to interpretation.
Got it. Okay.
But is in the raw things like the raw products like education is, I think, where is going to be the first place that we're just going to be like, wow, this is really going to make major shifts in how we even
smarter than a teacher,
and just kids using it to just hack the system.
Well, they're already doing that now.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
it's that generation.
I was reading. We're regressing, right? The high school teachers today are forcing students to turn in handwritten papers instead of typed papers because that's the only way they could know.
Well, not really. You can just handwrite down what the ChatGPT says.
But at least you got to write it down.
right. At least you're doing you're learning how to write in a pencil, right, or whatever.
So
but
I've listened to and read a fair bit, not as much as you, and I do think that a lot of this, things get hyped. The metaverse was supposed to be, maybe that was the wave. Maybe there might have been one in between. There's these waves that roll through, right? That this is going to be the next big thing. I do happen to agree with you that this one is most likely to be a thing compared to, I don't know, the last two that I remember were Bitcoin and metaverse, right? And understand the logic of both of those two things. Both of those two things could become some sort of thing. I think this is most likely, but it is still, can I push back or maybe steel man the other side of the argument? How can you say it's a year away from being impactful when it can't really today? If I had it right property descriptions, it would get it wrong. Like it still requires me to edit it and change it because it's reading the photo. The photo has a hot tub. Maybe it's a bigger hot tub than normal, so it calls it a pool. Like I can't just say
that's my house, by the way.
Yeah, write the property description.
I was like, I really do want a pool, though.
James has a big hot tub. Stay tuned for our next podcast. We'll be talking about it.
Weird.
But so it still needs us to fact check it, right? It does often get things wrong or miss the nuance that human beings can bring to a party.
It definitely has that last mile problem that humans can adjust in order to make it human readable on the other side. However, I mean, there's two things that have occurred in the last month that I think are important to note. That the ChatGPT as it stands is really kind of a closed system. They scraped the best of the internet, but for the most part it doesn't allow for real-time access. That's changing now with all these new products that are built on top of it.
Right.
It's being open to. So for example, like we have our business from a real estate data analysis perspective, like we have access to all these properties across the country and all these things. But, ChatGPT does not. Like, it doesn't have access to that database. But once we start embracing it and once we unload it and we start training the model against that database, and we will be doing that. We're doing that now.
I guess let me give you one more use case, because this is just the one that's in my brain when I think about it, when I'm creating white space to think. I think it'd be really easy, and if you want to fund this, that'd be cool. I think it'd be really easy to use ChatGPT or whoever to create a question and answer doc for every real estate purchase agreement across the U.S., right? One for each state. Very common questions, how are contingencies removed? What's a loan contingency? The common questions of a real estate purchase agreement, very easy, in my opinion, for ChatGPT or whatever.
It just needs to be fed into the system.
Correct.
That's all it is.
But what's hard, though, in that same... So you think offer writing process, very easy, question and answer definitions, clear parameters.
It's the details.
Helping a buyer determine what price to write.
In terms, right? Like, because oftentimes in a hyper-competitive market, I know I've sat with buyers who've said, I just... tell me the number, I don't want to lose the house, right? Now, that's not
we gotta take them through a process for that, right? I'd ask,
Right.
what number are you comfortable losing the home? That's the top end. We want to get it for as below far that as possible, and then they'll say, just pick a number, since people from all over the country will be listening, 350,000. That'd be great. So if someone wrote it 351,000 and they got the house, you'd be like, good, that's yours. I didn't want it that bad anyway. They're like, well, I don't know about that. And then we have to have that conversation, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, good news is I think you could get it for less than that. The comps don't show that. There's 5 offers, not 55 offers. I don't think, we don't think we have to go that high. And then you take them through this iterative process. I feel like ChatGPT can answer the questions about the purchase agreement very easily, but they're a long way away. It's a long way away from being able to help a human determine price. Am I wrong?
Well, just to give you kind of
this is going to be a long yes, audience. He's about to say yes, but in a long way.
Well,
Go ahead.
I will answer your. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'll give you the answer.
But what do you think?
I'll give you an answer in the sense of where we are in the technology at the core. Okay. So this last year, we have a supercomputer finally that's as powerful as one human brain. So that was predicted to happen around 2023, and it happened. About 10 years ago it was a mouse, and now it's a human brain, which is, it's estimated. Yeah. It's a certain amount. It's like 500 million petaflops or whatever the and it's pretty impressive. Now
I gotta go Google a new word. What was that word?
I have no idea what word that was. You just
petaflops. It's just like that's how you kind of measure. It was exaflops and petaflops, and there's it's just like this mathematical term basically saying how many times can you execute a transaction. Like it's like neurons connecting. The equivalent would be like neurons connecting. The human brain's super powerful, and it's hard to measure, but they estimate it to be that. So we just kind of hit that huge milestone. By 2050, we will have a supercomputer, and of course it's a bunch of different computers, not just one big box that's sitting in a warehouse in Nebraska, but that surpasses all human brains combined. So that's in 22.
That's the Elon Musk "we're all dead" conversation.
22 years.
Yeah, we're less than a couple decades away from having a computer that's more powerful than all of the human brains in the world. Now, to take a step back from that, that's where we call this point, and computer scientists, well, computer scientists and quote unquote like self-proclaimed philosophers talk about this point. It's called singularity, which you've probably heard about it.
Sure.
And that's the point where we stop understanding, and we can't understand what this computer is doing anymore.
Right, it's smarter.
And
than
it's
us
already
now.
it's so bad, it's so far beyond us that we don't even know. We can't even predict what it could possibly do. So to your point, yes, I mean I think when I say the scenario that you painted, I think is scarily simple, and I know that we put a lot of equity in that because we've probably made it more complicated than it needs to be as humans, and we're not even thinking about the other side of the equation, where if you put that into a program like an AI based software, it would probably come up with some novel idea or reasoning or process that would be highly adopted and probably surpass or supplant what you're talking about. Now, there is that gap, that chasm that's going to happen, that humans will lever this technology to be smarter and more efficient, but that will also lead us rapidly toward this machine learning algorithm to go, oh, I think I got it now, guys. I mean,
I
know
I'll
that
take
you guys,
it from here.
Yeah,
I'll take it from here, smarty pants.
Yeah, you thought you guys were like really crafty and smart, but I think I got it. I think after seeing 100,000 agents do, 1 million transactions, I think I've got the statistical lever here to say, all right, I think I got this right within a margin of error. So I mean, that's what people are scared of, is that we're not just learning. It's not just learning. It's not just replacing us with this other tech. It's learning from us. That's the difference. It's not
if you're applying that logic to real estate, you could apply that logic to almost anything.
Yeah, of course.
Banking, finance, all the way across the board. So
if we teach it, it will learn.
So we should unhook them.
So
that's I mean that's actually right now the big debate, the letter that's going around and being signed by everybody is like
facetious and sort of serious. Yeah.
No, but it's going around. They are talking about it.
No, I know.
Do we let the genie out of the bottle? I got 22 years to get rich, retire, and get off the planet. That's what I heard Rich say. I got 22 years to figure it out.
or just to come to the AI, master lord and just.
Well, all I know, Rich, is it's in the afternoon here. It is not 5, but I definitely feel like grabbing a bourbon. So after that conversation, Rich, honestly, it was awesome to have you on the show.
We'll have you back.
I learned a lot. What's the word again you used? It was
petaflop.
So I'm gonna go look that up.
Yeah,
I will.
I'm not kidding. Keith and I will actually go Google that. That was really fascinating. But I guess just to leave the listeners and viewers, essentially, it's really about, if you're going to do online lead gen, you got to focus on it. You got to make sure you're doing it right. You got to be quick. You got to follow up, have an understanding of it. And I think he's kind of saying is we've got 22 years to still stay at the center of the transaction. So
that's what Rich said. Rich said they're running everything in 22 years.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks for being here.
We really appreciate you being here, Rich.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure, guys. It's always fun talking about, the end of days, but
the end of the world,
end of the world. Awesome.
Yeah. We'll have you back soon when we need to get the Preston.
Yeah. If you guys want to have like another,
I'm going to do it over a cocktail that time, though.
Facts.
Probably a good idea.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me.
You don't want to let Keith down, do you? Hit subscribe, and not only will you never miss an episode of this podcast, but you'll also never make Keith sad. He's easily entertained.